Alright, so for this sump, this, what I assume is an auto top-off setup, was already installed when I got the sump used. The problem is, on the inside, kind of hard to tell, but over here it's set up essentially what it looks like to be for a float valve, but there's no actual float valve on the other side. So if I were to run this anywhere, there's nothing stopping the water, it would just constantly run. So I obviously could have just got another float valve, this exact size to put here. However, I think they're around $20 at BRS, and then I would have to wait for it to ship. So instead, I just ran down to my local fish store, grabbed a 3/4 inch bulkhead, using one of my hole drill bits that I use to drill the tank. Drilled 3/4 hole, put the bulkhead in, and just plugged it. And then I also already had this style of float valve sitting around that you hang on your baffle. So that was free. Bulkhead was like $6. Had it that day, so I went that route. Because this is missing the float valve, I'm actually going to use this on the inside of the RODI system. I don't really need a float valve. I just need to have a nice flat surface with a gasket to seal it. And so it'll just be the constant water source coming out of the RODI, feeding over to the actual float valve in the top off. So all in all, pretty straightforward on this one. So obviously I have my RODI here, putting water into this bin, it fills up, and now I have the RODI running through this gravity fed auto top off. It's draining water until that float comes up. There's enough water in there, the water shuts off. Water gets too low, float drops, starts to fill with water. Over here is another style where you can get, this is an actual auto top off tank. It was designed this way where they have a pre-drilled hole here and you have a little valve here, same concept. So you hook a hose up from here to a float valve, very similar to what you just saw. The only thing I don't like about these is this tends to leak on me. That's why I'm not really using this one. This has leaked one too many times. That's just another gravity style that you can choose. I have another video where I created my own reservoir and put a hole in it with a bulkhead. You can check that out as well. I'll put a quick picture of that in the video here. Anyway, if you choose to do your reservoir, whether it's your main source, a specialized tank like this, or a DIY container, you just run it down to a float valve. It's very simple. And then for my display, return chamber here, I actually have a JVJ auto top off. Not the best, but gets the job done. So what I'm gonna do is put the JVJ electronic auto top off in this chamber here, and then run tubing through that wall. So back behind the tank here, it's my office. And then we have under the stairs storage. So the tank's right there. So I'll run that JVJ auto top off into a food grade bucket either here or run it all the way into the fish room. The worry is the pump I have on hand is not very big, so I don't know if it'll be able to pump from the fish room all the way into the tank. So it'll either go here or in the fish room. And this is the JVJ auto top off I have. So you just hang the sensor. See, it's got a little float in there. It then triggers the pump, which is a Toonsy. It's a nice pump. It's just a little tiny guy, so I don't know if I'll have enough power again to run it all the way down here from the fish room through that wall out to the display. So we'll see. You can see my water lines here, and the float is inside that plastic housing right there. So as the water increases, that float goes up, and when it's down, it's telling the system. You can see the pump light is on. This second float is over here, and it's seated way higher in the sump. And when that one gets triggered, sensor 2 will come on, that light, which means the water is too high. It'll shut the pump off. So it has failsafe built in there, and then also you can, with this ATO, set a certain amount of time, max time on, and so that way if it gets stuck or something is off with your float here and it just keeps pumping water, it'll only go for whatever you set the time here, and then it'll just cut off. So now when you come into the fish room, I have the reservoir tucked away over here in a little corner. And that's one of the reasons I went with this style for the display, because I didn't want any jugs or reservoirs out in the living area. So as you can see, my water level is here, which has caused this to float. Because it is floating, when you look over at the controller unit, power, there's no sensors being tripped. Everything's where it should be. When this float goes down, because the water level drops, we'll simulate that by simply lifting up the float. You'll see that little float in there drop. It triggers this to say sensor 1, pump come on, and it feeds water. There's multiple ways you can set up an auto top off for your system. These are just 2 methods I went with here on my tanks, largely in part because I had most of the components lying around, which made it a little bit cheaper. However, neither one would be my top recommendation. If you're looking for that when it comes to auto top offs, I'd certainly recommend the Tunes the Oscillator. They have 2 versions available, one for a larger setup, one for a smaller or nano setup. Just make sure you note that if you choose to go that route. But definitely appreciate you checking out another video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and until next time.